Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Bryson Dechambeau, and we got a great show for you guys today where we'll be diving right into all things golf, including our first segment talking about Bryson Dechambeau's fantastic win at the U.S. Open. This is his second major win in his career, second U.S. Open win in his career as he replicates the success he had in 2020 at the U.S. Open. Our second segment, we'll be talking about the rest of the leaderboard, the superlatives for the weekend, who stood out and who disappointed. Our third segment of the night, we'll be talking about Team USA Olympics. There's a little bit of controversy on who went and, more importantly, who didn't go. And that will lead us into our fourth segment, talking about Wyndham Clark. And is there something wrong with his game? Because he has been faltering the second half of the season. Seeing what's going on with him, looking at the stats, see if we can analyze something from the numbers there. Our fifth and final segment, we'll be talking about Neil Shipley, who became the 10th amateur ever to finish the low am at both the Masters and the U.S. Open. He's been playing some great golf, joining some elite company. We'll dive into that more in our fifth and final segment of the night. But before we get into all that, as always, guys, if you would like to become a bigger part of the show than you guys already are, support the show in more ways than you guys already do. Use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for any if you guys want to support the show in any ways, or if you want to ask me any questions, you can also do that there. And that'll lead us right into our first segment of the night, of course, talking about Bryson Dechambeau winning his second major in his career. Very fantastic win this was for Bryson Dechambeau, a guy that has really separated himself amongst a lot of these perennial golfers. He is clearly the best. So here's the thing, is because, I, of course, look at a lot of the live golf events as well. He doesn't do particularly well at the live golf events. His team is first in live golf. The Crushers are the ones at the top of the live golf standings. However, individually for Bryson Dechambeau, he hasn't won an event yet this year, and it's been interesting to look at some of his finishing and how he has performed in the events in live golf or in live golf in general. He didn't have the best event in Houston last week, and then going right into this U.S. Open where he played very good golf this entire week. Did things in areas of his game that I have never seen before, which very, very impressed me from Bryson Dechambeau. But for Bryson, when he's on the live tour, it seems like he gets up a lot more for these majors than he does for events on the live golf tour. It seems in the words that he says and in his actions that at this point he kind of regrets. Well, maybe not regrets the decision. He said on the Pat McAfee show that he made his choice and he's living with the consequences of it. So, take that as you will. I take that as more of he wants to play on the PGA Tour more than he wants to play on the LIV Tour. And I think that is kind of clear. And we'll see if there's a merger here soon that can enable that. Because let me tell you, Bryson Dechambeau belongs in the highest events in golf that golf has to offer, as he is one of the most exciting players in all of golf. No athlete in my recent memory has had this complete 180 in golf as Bryson Dechambeau has, really. I remember I couldn't stand him when he went to the LIV Golf Tour. I thought this guy was awful, and I kind of was happy because he was one of the first bigger names that left for the LIV Golf Tour. Of course, him, Brooks Koepka, and Dustin Johnson kind of led that catalyst of or the mass exodus of people going to the LIV Golf Tour. And I really didn't like him. And I remember really, really, being happy that he went. But now I just can't wait until, because there is an absolute future where there's a merger, and of course these talks will continue to happen. We'll talk more about that in segment 3, talking about the U.S. Olympics, because that does feed into that conversation as well. Everybody wants it to happen. It's going to happen sooner than later. I'm excited for when it does happen because I just want to see these fields be, so exciting again. Remembering the fields of 2019 or 2020, 2018, where it's just Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Victor Hovland in 2019 when he was having his fantastic amateur year. Just so many great names in golf all together. Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Rory McIlroy, all these names in one field together is something that I can't wait to happen again. We see it every major, but we don't really see it to the extent that I want it to be with all these signature events. Of course, we're going into the Travelers Champions next week, which will have a full field minus Rory McIlroy, it seems. But it's still not a full field, and of course it's never going to be a full field until this merger does happen. So hopefully we get into these talks here sooner than later. But we do got to go over Bryson Dechambeau's scorecard from the U.S. Open here. He had a fantastic day one, going 3 under. I believe he was fourth. I think he was lone fourth on the leaderboard after day one. Started off on 13, gets it to a birdie, 18 birdie on a very difficult par 4 18. Par 4 third hole was also a difficult one this weekend that he birdied, and then the par 5 fifth, the one that everybody kind of birdied in the big moments this weekend. It was an important one for him to see another one drop. He does pick up a stroke on the 7th hole, but he played fantastic on the more difficult holes. On 6, he gets pars throughout the weekend. On 8, that's a par. On 2, he gets a par here, which was 4th. 14, 15, both tied for 5th most difficult hole on the golf course, he gets pars on. So played very well on the most difficult holes, just surviving them and taking it into par, and then taking his chances on the easier greens that the U.S. Open has. Of course, all the greens are they're called turtle greens, where it's like a humpback, where it's just feeding out on all sides. Very impressive what Bryson DeChambeau did on day one. Leads us into a day 2, which he didn't play his best golf, but he goes to 4 under, and he starts to, be one of the guys at the top of the leaderboard. After this day 2 here, we see that he's going to be in contention, as a lot of guys shot in the greens on day 2. For most of day 2, it looked like he was going to shoot in the greens, but he gets a birdie on the 6th hole, which is such a difficult hole. He's able to get a birdie on 18 to get to 1 under, with birdies on 12 and 13 in the middle of the tournament as well. Good round here, a 69. He shoots under par on both days. He shoots under pars on all day leading up to Sunday, as well as he shoots under par on the round 3. He takes the 54-hole lead after this third round here. He does start to separate himself from the pack. I believe he went into Sunday at 7 under at the top of the leaderboard. And, just impressive. What more is there to say about this guy then? He played 72 great holes of golf throughout this weekend, and he absolutely deserves to be the U.S. Open Championship. We'll talk more about what went right for him when we talk about the superlatives. There is one aspect of his game that stood out to me amongst the rest, and it's not his driver, which is always the talk of Bryson DeChambeau. But he was fantastic at other aspects of the game that I didn't think that really he had it in him. We talk about Bryson DeChambeau, and we always talk about how great he is at flying the golf ball, how fantastic he has always been at driving and distance. He was so accurate this weekend, and he was so accurate with greens and regulation, and he was so accurate with scrambling, and especially scrambling and putting was something that really stood out to me for Bryson DeChambeau. And he really deserved this U.S. Open. He was clearly the best golfer in the field this weekend. I know, you look at Rory McIlroy's kind of meltdown and think, well, Rory McIlroy could have easily won this tournament, and he absolutely could have. But Bryson DeChambeau absolutely deserves to be the winner here, and I don't think that we should be talking about Rory McIlroy so much as him melting down. More so, we should be talking about Bryson DeChambeau playing a fantastic weekend of golf. But on the round 3, he even double bogeys. On the round 3, he has a double square on his card on 16, which was such a difficult 528-yard par 4 on 16. It played as the 4th hardest hole on the golf course, and he didn't play too well on it throughout the weekend, but able to get some strokes back in the middle there. 14, 11, 10, 7, 5. He birdied on. He played fantastic on 10 and 5 specifically this weekend. The 2 par 5s that the U.S. Open has to offer. It was very important for guys to play well on 5 and 10. And we saw for the guys that separated themselves amongst the pack, it was those 2 holes that they were able to fly on the green and be able to play from the fairway for most of this tournament, and especially on those par 5 holes. In the U.S. Open and at Pinehurst, it was really important to not play out of the rough, as we saw on Bryson's shot on 18 in round 4, as I will show you the round 4 scorecard here now. This Sunday was kind of building up to the last 3 holes. I think that we saw that it was going to be it was going to be between Rory McIlroy. We saw it was going to be between him and Bryson DeChambeau, and it was really between 16, 17, and 18 where this tournament was won by DeChambeau and lost by Rory McIlroy. All the holes leading up to it, of course, it's important. Of course, you need to play well leading up to it, but these are the holes that separated those 2 players in this round here. Bryson DeChambeau able to get par on all 3 of those holes, where Rory McIlroy bogeyed 2 out of those 3 holes. And that's really the difference here. Rory McIlroy still finished with an under par card as he was sinking 10-foot putts left and right on 10, 12, 13, 9, I believe was a 10-foot putt as well. But for Bryson DeChambeau, he walks away as your winner. It's because of that 60-yard bunker shot on 18. He was asked... it's on his Live Golf profile. Before this tournament, it's on his Live Golf profile. He was asked in introduction interviews for Live Golf, what is the most difficult or what shot gives you nightmares? And it's on his Live Golf profile, a 55-yard bunker shot. He had a 55-yard bunker shot to win the U.S. Open, the most difficult shot in golf. He sticks it within 4 feet of the pin. Absolutely just so impressive what he was able to do here. And Bryson DeChambeau is your U.S. Open winner. He takes the trophy. He walked around with the fans after. He had the time of his life. He really is just a fan favorite on the PGA Tour, and he doesn't even play on the PGA Tour. This is how just monumental, the last few majors he has had. Of course, he has a YouTube channel that helps with that as well. But truly, I think people are going to start tuning into Live Golf a little bit more just because of Bryson DeChambeau. Of course, he also plays well on the Live Golf Tour, his team being first on that tour in the standings. So we will see what this Bryson DeChambeau effect will be on golf. I do think that he will become the catalyst for this merger that's been talked about that will eventually happen one day. And I can't wait for that to happen because I do think that is going to be a very special time in golf when that does happen. So that'll wrap it up for our first segment of the night. When I come back, we'll be talking about the U.S. Open recap and giving some superlatives for the U.S. Open from the weekend.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're going back with our second segment of the night talking about the U.S. Open recap and superlatives. But before I get into that, I would love to remind you guys that if you would like to become a bigger part of the show than you already are, use the GSMCpodcast.net tips and donations link. If you want to ask me a question, you can put it in a box. It'll appear across the screen, and it also just helps out the creators here at the GSMC Sports Network a lot. Without further ado, we're going to get right into this second segment talking about the U.S. Open recap and superlatives from the U.S. Open, as we do after every single weekend on a Tuesday. We talk about who played the best at all aspects of the game. But just for the recap, and we talked about it a little bit, but we're gonna need to start with Rory McIlroy. Going into 15, this guy had a 2-stroke lead on Bryson DeChambeau. He bogeys 15, He misses a 3-foot putt on 16, and he misses a 3-foot putt on 18. And he melts down, as people are calling it, and loses the U.S. Open to extend his major drought past a decade. He hasn't won a major since the 2014 PGA Championship. He won the 2011 U.S. Open. Rory McIlroy at one time in his career was looked at as, this guy has the potential to be one of the greatest of all time because he's so young and he's winning so many. Now Rory McIlroy is 35 years old. He has not won a major since 2014. He is still one of the best golfers in the world. But you gotta assume 35 years old, coming up on a rapid decline maybe. I'd be worried for him. I am truly worried for him. And it's unfortunate because I do want to see him win another one. And I did want to see... Here was the battle in my mind on Sunday. I love what Bryson Dechambeau is doing, and I think that he is a fantastic... I think just he is a fantastic vocal leader for golf and for what golf... I want golf the direction to go into, and a win at Pinehurst would go very far into, it was going to get the topic of the U.S. Olympics that I looked at going into the weekend. That topic was going to need to be brought to head. Of course, the just official World Golf rankings, of course, the FedEx Cup rankings. If he was allowed to get FedEx Cup rankings, I would think that he is in safely. He's in the top 30 just on these 3 major performances, and then on top of that, everything that he's missing out, not being able to play in signature events, not being able to play just on tour every week. I do really want Bryson DeChambeau to play on tour, and I think that it will be very important. And eventually he will, and I can't wait for that day to happen, and for Brooks Koepka to be back on tour, and for Dustin Johnson to be back on tour, and for maybe even Phil Mickelson, although he might just be playing in the PGA Champions events. But nonetheless, Rory McIlroy, it was so hard to watch because that putt on... it's here for me, that 18 putt was very difficult. And I understand how he missed that one. It was a downhill putt that broke left to right. And it broke left to right by 2 balls. He didn't expect it to break that much. I think he didn't respect it enough. It's just so unfortunate because he had... there could never be another perfect opportunity. He has 4 holes to play, and if he bogeys 2, he's going into a playoff. If he bogeys 50% of the holes, he's going into a playoff. Let alone if he gets a birdie at any point, he's winning this U.S. Open. And it's on 15, 16, and 18, which are difficult holes, but 18 is the 11th or is the 8th easiest hole on the course. 17, 9th easiest, and 15 and 16 are tied for 5th hardest. So. You have an opportunity here, and it's right there, and you can see how crushed he was after Bryson DeChambeau made that putt on 18 for him to win, which was not an easy putt, by the way. It still was about 5 feet, and he definitely could have missed that to force or to go into a playoff. Yeah, it's unfortunate for Rory McIlroy. It's, of course, the conversation that we have to have, though. So close, but so far as he loses out on another major champion. Now there is still another opportunity. There's the Tour Championship or the Open Championship that is played in Scotland this year, I believe it is, which of course he always loved. It goes back to Great Britain, where he's from Northern Ireland. Right across the sea there would be Scotland. So for Rory McIlroy, he'll have an opportunity here, but unfortunate. We won't see him at the Travelers Championship. He said the next event that he'll play is the Scottish Open, which I understand that one. He's taking a few weeks off from golf. That's soul-crushing. He plays 4 great rounds of golf. 65 round 1. I believe he was the day 1 leader. 72 on round 2, and then 69 on round 3, and then he was on pace for a 66 round 4, which would have had him win by 2 strokes. He could have won by 3 strokes. Unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It really is for Rory McIlroy. But I'm glad that Bryson DeChambeau won as well. So going throughout the rest of the leaderboard, Tony Finau had a fantastic Sunday to surge to tied for third with Patrick Cantlay. Another great aspect of this tournament, it was Patrick Cantlay and Rory McIlroy in the final pairing on Sunday. Of course, the Ryder Cup champion, or the Ryder Cup controversy that happened last year was a factor going into Sunday. Those two guys really don't like each other. So a little fun to see those two in a pairing on a Sunday in a major championship. I don't think I saw those guys say a single word to each other all day. So, but Patrick Cantlay finished tied for third. After he was tied with Rory McIlroy after the day one lead, he had just 3 mediocre days of golf, 71, 70, 70, shooting par or over on the final 3 days. He definitely could have made a run, but that's just Pinehurst, man. That's this golf course. You're not going to be able to play. You're going to have a couple rounds that are just a little stinky here on this golf course, and Patrick Cantlay definitely did. Matthew Pavon also had a fantastic weekend. He finished 3 under at solo 5th. Hideki Matsuyama had a fantastic Friday that got him to 2 under. He finishes even, or he finishes 2 under 6th place at this U.S. Open. Russell Henley, Xander Schauffele, Sam Burns, Davis Thompson, Corey Connors round out the top 10. Sergio Garcia at age, how old is Sergio Garcia nowadays? I've got to see. Sergio Garcia is 44 years old, and he finished tied for 12th with Ludwig Oberg, who had a kind of blow up on. Honestly, he was my. Of course, you guys heard on Thursday that I had him winning after Thursday. He had a good round 2, and then he had blow-ups on round 3 and round 4, 73-73 each day. So his name wasn't really talked about going into that final day on Sunday and throughout Sunday, but he definitely had an opportunity but just missed out. Other names that stand out to me, of course, Brooks Koepka finishes 6 over, tied for 26th. But Neil Shipley, of course, 6 over, tied for 26th. We'll be talking about him in our 5th segment of the day. He had a fantastic event. Of course, it's 6 over, but it's still a good event. He finished tied for 26th at a major championship. Very impressive. But other guys that stand out to me on the other end, Scottie Scheffler almost missed the cut. Jordan Spieth almost missed the cut. Both of them finished 8 over. Both of them were pretty far back going into Saturday and Sunday. Scottie Scheffler should have missed the cut. The cut line just barely moved at the last second to get him in, and he finishes tied for 41st. Going into a tournament where he was favored after he was second favored after the first day. He never really looked like he had an opportunity to win this one. We'll see if he's able to, recapture that major success he had at the Masters, at the Open Championship. But he needs to start winning other majors other than the Masters. Of course, he has 2 Masters under his belt, but he hasn't really performed at the other majors yet in his career. So we'll see at the Open Championship in Scotland if he is able to replicate the success he had earlier in the season at the Open Championship. Of course, he is still playing fantastic golf. He just won the Memorial. Not worried about his game where it's at right now, but maybe worried about his, the other end of the game. But going into the superlatives for the weekend, I have off the tee with the driver, it's Rory McIlroy, of course, winning this one. I talked about it a little bit in that first segment. He gained 8 or 9/10 of strokes off the tee, which is second in the field. He was second in distance, third in accuracy for first overall with the driver on the weekend. Second in distance, third in accuracy is insane. Usually you see guys that have fantastic accuracy don't have that great of distance. Guys with great distance don't have the best accuracy. But no, for him throughout the entire weekend, second and third in the respective categories, very impressive. With the irons, I had Tony Finau, 1.866 strokes gained on approach, which is a full stroke gained over Rory McIlroy's off the tee. Very, very impressive iron game from Tony Finau. That's really what separated him here and what got him into a second place or into a third place for this weekend. He was first with strokes gained on approach. He was he had two-thirds of his greens in regulation, which was fourth, and he was fourth in proximity to hole. So he hit a lot of greens. He put it close to the pin, really gave him a shot at a lot of birdies throughout the weekend. Wedges, I have Bryson Dechambeau. Bryson Dechambeau with wedges is something I don't think truly, I never thought I would say that. His entire career, it's been talking about that driver and how he hits his 8-iron further than I can hit my driver in real life, and that is actually a true fact. I'm not too proud of that one, but nonetheless, Bryson Dechambeau, fantastic play with the wedges around the green is something that I never thought would be an aspect of his game that he would be able to be impressive at, but he absolutely was here, tied for 10th in all scrambling / wedge stats. Pretty much, but it's not just the stats, it's that bunker shot on 18. I saw that he gained an entire, I think it was like 9/10 of a strokes. He gained 9/10 of strokes on the field with just that bunker shot on 18, which is absolutely ridiculous. That basically means that everybody from that position bogeyed, and he saved par somehow. It is the most difficult shot in golf, a 60-yard bunker shot. He had no fear. And I actually remember, I remember watching the I remember that I was watching the U.S. Open, and I literally said out loud to the people I was watching it with, I said, that's a closed club face. He's going for the pin, because the commentators, everybody else that was watching was saying, oh no, you just got to get it onto the green, try to 2-putt, take this into a playoff. I saw in the club face how closed it was and that he was trying to go for a little bit more distance on it. Yeah, and he absolutely flew that, and just that shot alone got him the best wedges of the weekend, and I'm very, very comfortable with saying that. Russell Henley takes away the best putter from the weekend, 2.426 strokes gained from the putter. That's insane. Triple the strokes gained from his putter as Rory McIlroy had from his driver. Yeah, that's insane. He averaged 1.6 putts. Averaging anything less than 2 putts is very impressive. It means that you didn't 3-putt a lot and you were able to put down your 1 putts when they were close. 1.605 is very great. It is way above tour average. Very impressive, especially on greens that they were playing on today. Very impressive, Russell Henley with the putter. I had my most surprising be Mathieu Pavon. Mathieu Pavon kind of has come out of nowhere these past few weeks and has played some good golf. Looking at his profile, playing some golf that I really haven't seen him play in his career. The 31-year-old from Toulouse, France, has, of course, finishing 5th in this U.S. Open. He was tied for 12th at the Masters. He finished 3rd at Pebble Beach. He was 1st at the Farmers Insurance this year. Of course, cut from the previous 2 events, the PGA Championship and the Memorial Tournament. But still, very impressive what he was able to do here at the U.S. Open. Very impressive what he was able to do earlier this year. Of course, winning a tournament earlier this year is great for Mathieu Pavon. He is the most surprising. And the most disappointing, I have Justin Thomas. I feel like you could have gone with a lot of guys. Scotty Scheffler would have made sense for most disappointing here. But I do go with Justin Thomas as 11 over through 2 days, missing the cut. We talked about him a few weeks ago, I want to say, talking about how his game's just not where he needs it to be. He's pretty far off after a pretty good year in 2023 and a great year in 2022. But he's been on a steady decline for the better half of a decade. So we'll see if Justin Thomas is able to regain, that 2022 PGA Championship performance. Or, he even played great in the Ryder Cup last year. So we'll see from Justin Thomas if he's able to bounce back from an 11 over through 2 days missed cut at the U.S. Open. But that'll wrap it up for our second segment of the night. When I come back, we will be talking about the Team USA Olympic roster has been announced here on the GSMC Golf Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel. We're getting right into our third segment of the night, talking about the Team USA Olympic roster as it has been announced and talking about the controversy that comes with it. All right, let me name you the 4 names on this roster. Scottie Scheffler, best golfer in the world, bar none. Easy. This goes by points. Nobody picks the teams, so it does go off of a statistical-based system here. So Scottie Scheffler gets in on a statistical-based system. You don't say the guy leads in every single stat, has won so many events. I mean, whatever you want to throw at him, he is number 1 in. So that makes sense. Xander Schauffele just won a PGA Championship, is the world golf number 2 right now, has been playing fantastic. That absolutely makes sense. Colin Morikawa, been great as of late, one of the best golfers in the last half decade. That makes sense. He absolutely deserves it. Wyndham Clark. Okay, that's the one that I'll pull back on a little bit. We'll talk about what I think is wrong with Wyndham Clark in a 4th segment, so I'm not going to dig too deep into this guy. I'm not going to start trashing him for no reason. That means we're leaving off 2 big names that I think deserve it over Wyndham Clark. The biggest name that everybody's talking about is Bryson Dechambeau. But not a lot of people are talking about who I think might be maybe even a little bigger name that got let off, and it's Patrick Cantlay. Patrick Cantlay has been playing some fantastic golf as of late. The last couple of years, really, he's been playing great golf. Finished last year as the world golfer number 5, only behind Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, and Victor Hovland. And then it was Patrick Cantlay at 5. He barely misses out because Wyndham Clark is riding a high of a U.S. Open and played well in the first half of this year. I really do, and everybody doesn't like Patrick Cantlay, and I'm on that boat. I understand with that taking the hat off at the Ryder Cup. I understand why people don't like Patrick Cantlay, and it's definitely I definitely can agree with some of the things. But when it comes to a golfer, and when it comes to somebody that I want to be there for Team USA in an Olympics, who I think is a better golfer, I truly think Patrick Cantlay is a better golfer than Wyndham Clark. And I truly think that Bryson DeChambeau is a better golfer than Wyndham Clark as well. But everybody's talking about Bryson DeChambeau. And Bryson DeChambeau, if Live Golf Tour events counted, would absolutely be in the USA Olympics. But he said on the Pat McAfee show, when Pat McAfee was talking about it, saying that this is kind of BS. We're talking about a guy that deserves to be there. But he can't be there because his tour doesn't count for official world golf ranking points. Bryson DeChambeau just responded with, yeah, it sucks. I really want to be there, but I knew the consequences when I signed up for this thing. I knew what I was doing, and truly, I think that is the right, right thing to say if you're Bryson DeChambeau in this situation. It makes sense that he signed up for a life where he was going to be left out of events, and he understood that, left out of Ryder Cups, left out of USA Olympics. He definitely could have been at the Ryder Cup last year instead of Ricky Fowler, and maybe USA wins the Ryder Cup. But that is a conversation for a different day. But for this Team USA, I do think that it doesn't matter. I think that USA is going to be able to get at least a couple of medals in golf. Looking at the entire field for Team USA golf, if I can. let me pull up real quick all the rosters here. I had it up, and I guess it was just the wrong. I guess it was just the wrong thing, wrong graphic here. There we go. Okay. So we have Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele. Another guy that can definitely win this one is Rory McIlroy, who could definitely get gold for Team Ireland, who we will be representing. I think it's the Republic of Ireland, because they have to include Northern Ireland, and you can't, of course, you can't just say Ireland for a golfer like Rory McIlroy, who has been very clear that he is Irish and not North Irish. Or, sorry, he is North Irish and not Irish. You also have Victor Hovland representing Norway, Ludvig Åberg representing Sweden, John Rahm representing Spain, Tommy Fleetwood, Great Britain, Matt Fitzpatrick, Great Britain. Those two could definitely do something. You have Jason Day with Australia, Seb Straka, Austria. You have An Byung-mon with the Republic of Korea, Matthew Pavon with France, who we were talking about earlier, Shane Lowry with Ireland. So you have two Irish golfers, of course, Shane Lowry and Rory McIlroy. But a lot of guys that could make a name for themselves in this Olympics, as well as you have a lot of guys from like places like China or the other Spain, Germany, Belgium, New Zealand, Italy, guys that aren't on the tour that can, get their name out there through these Olympics. It'll be a very fun event. I can't wait to talk about that. Of course, that will be the first weekend in August, I believe it is, when the golf happens for this. But another team that I want to talk about a little bit is Argentina. It will be Emiliano Grillo and Alejandro Tosti. Both these guys have won on the PGA Tour in their careers. Both guys can definitely show out for Argentina in the Olympics. That could be very special. So looking forward to seeing what those guys can do for their country in the team or in the Paris Olympics. But yeah, just going back to the original point and my thoughts on it, I don't think that it matters too much. I do think that USA clearly has, I would say, 3 of the top 6 golfers in this field representing them. I would say 3 of the top 6 golfers in the field. I would say Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, and Collin Morikawa. And then it's Ludvig Åberg, Victor Hovland, and Rory McIlroy who make up the other 3 of that 6. So all those guys, I think, have really great opportunities to win a medal here at the Paris Olympics. I think it'll be a very interesting event. I'm very excited for it, of course. But I don't think that it's a problem having Wyndham Clark there. And who knows? He could just go out there and win, and he can prove me wrong, and he could prove pretty much everybody wrong, because, I'm definitely on the majority in saying this. But I think that it would have been nice to see Bryson DeChambeau or Patrick Cantlay in the Olympics, who I truly believe those two deserve it a little bit more than a Wyndham Clark does, who hasn't been playing good golf as of late, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. He gets this nod despite some pretty poor performances, especially in the majors, and that's really what I want to talk about in that next segment. His major performances this year has been awful on the backs of that U.S. Open last year, so we'll see if he could turn it around. But for this Paris Olympics, it doesn't hurt having him there, of course. He is still, in the official world golf rankings, he is still the number 5th golfer in the world, right behind Ludvig Åberg, which Ludvig Åberg being at 4th in the official world golf rankings, so impressive. This young man is fantastic. But Bryson DeChambeau only has 10 events that count, compared to Wyndham Clark has 52. Wyndham Clark has the most events out of anybody in the top 10. Wyndham Clark has 42 events that count has 42 more events that count in the official world golf rankings than Bryson DeChambeau does. And Bryson DeChambeau is only, how many points behind is he? He's behind him by only 100 points in the total points. It's unfortunate. It truly is unfortunate for Bryson DeChambeau, who has been fantastic in the majors this year. But he won't be at the USA, or he won't be there for USA at the Olympics. A lot of people are pretty upset about that, and absolutely understanding. I don't know what happened to all of my my titles from the OBS, but they all got mixed up. I apologize for that, a little bit technical difficulties, but we got it working out. But we'll get into our fourth segment when I come back from my third break of the night, talking about Wyndham Clark's disappointing second half of this PGA Tour season.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel. We're getting into the fourth segment of the night, talking about Wyndham Clark's disappointing second half of the year. Of course, this is on the backs of Wyndham Clark not having a great performance at the U.S. Open, and on the backs of him being selected into the USA Olympics. He's truly, when the U.S. Open knocks off of his official world golf ranking, he truly is going to take a little bit of a plummet, and it's just what happens. He has been a streaky golfer in his career, of course, dealing with a lot of mental issues throughout his career has plagued him a lot, but really, since his U.S. Open win and the third at the Tour Championship, it hasn't been too impressive for Wyndham Clark. Of course, he won the Wells Fargo last year as well. That was his first win that he had on tour, and then winning the U.S. Open later that in a month from then, and then he got third in the Tour Championship as well last year. This year for Wyndham Clark, it has been kind of the same story to start, and then a completely different second half. First at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, second at the Arnold Palmer, tied for second at the Players, and since the Players, it has been pretty much all downhill. Tied for 31st at the Houston Open, cut from the Masters, tied 47th at the Wells Fargo Championship in a attempt to recapture his win there. He was cut at the PGA Championship, cut at the Memorial Tournament, tied for 56th at the U.S. Open in a title defense there as well. For Wyndham Clark, he hasn't had a great season, and one thing that stands out to me a lot is his around the green and approach to the green. From tee to green, he's 21st in strokes gained, and strokes gained total, he's 18th in the field. But in his approach to the green, he's 76th in the field in strokes gained. Around the green, he's 82nd. In strokes gained. He has a great driver. It's never been his driver. His driving distance is 6th on the tour. His driving accuracy is pretty good as well. I'm not seeing this stat right now, but I know it is pretty good. But his greens in regulation has been the problem in this year. He's 97th. In proximity to hole, 87th in greens in regulation. His irons haven't been working for him this year at all, and it's been it truly has been a bit disappointing for Wyndham Clark, who came into this year expecting a lot for himself, of course, and we expected a lot out of him. Winning a major last year, finishing third in another major. It looked like he absolutely turned his career around, really. And then at the start of this year, he was looking really good. But since that Masters, it hasn't been impressive for Wyndham. Whatever he needs to do to recapture that success, he needs to do it fast, because his events have kind of been in a spiral downhill, and it's just been bad irons. It's been playing out of the rough a good bit. He's been playing out of the right rough a lot more than he's been playing out of the left rough. But just all around his stats, he's 147th in scrambling at a 55%. The tour average is 60%, so he's missing out on a lot of strokes on the field, just missing up and downs. His total putting has been pretty good. He's 1.7 in putting, which is third on the tour, but when your wedges aren't really working like you want them to, he's chunking a lot of wedges, leaving a lot of them thin as well. This is what it looks like. A guy that he had a very impressive start to the year. And you know that the talent is there, and you know that he is very capable of being a fantastic player on tour. But for Wyndham Clark, it truly has been a tale of two seasons this year. And now going into a U.S. Olympics in August, in a month and a half, that he's going to need to show something going into that one. Of course, that's going to be after the Tour Championship. Got a couple of events coming up, like the Travelers Championship, the John Deere Classic that'll probably play in, that are good opportunities for him to kind of recapture that success from the first half of the season and kind of prove a lot of people wrong, including myself. Wyndham Clark is a guy that I look at, and I think I made it clear, I don't think that he deserved to be in the U.S. Olympics. I think if there's a guy that just picks the teams for USA, and if there's like a coach that could pick his roster, and he can only pick 4, I think, at least if it's me, I go Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, and I think I go Patrick Cantlay. But I think I really do give a thought to Bryson Dechambeau, and I might even take Bryson DeChambeau over Patrick Cantlay depending on the day. So for Wyndham Clark to go, and it's not just that I would pick other guys over him. I would probably pick a lot of guys over him. Like, just looking at the official World Golf Rankings, just right now, I would take Max Homa over him. I would take Russell Henley over him. I would take Keegan Bradley over him. I would take Tony Finau over him. I would probably take... it might end there. I might end the list there because I don't think I'm taking Justin Thomas or Jordan Spieth over him. I don't think I'm taking Will Zalatoris right now over him. I think there is a potential to take Will Zalatoris over him. I think Will Zalatoris is one of the more talented golfers on tour. He just has, of course, had back problems for the greater part of the last 2 years of his career. So that's been, a thorn on his side. So he's been a little bit down there in official World Golf Ranking points. But for Wyndham Clark, I truly would take a lot of guys over him. I listed the 5 there, and I think it's fair. I would probably take Brooks Koepka over him too. And I didn't even think of the Live Golf guys besides Bryson DeChambeau. Brooks Koepka, I don't think I'm taking Dustin Johnson over him, just off the top of my head. It's just, he's so inconsistent. He's inconsistent tee to green, and that's what I'm seeing a lot. And I saw that a lot this weekend, or the 2 days that he did play. Or did he did finish out the weekend. He didn't miss the cut. It was the other 2 majors that he did. But, I mean, there is something to say about that he, in the majors this year, has been pretty lackluster. Talking tied for 56th in the U.S. Open, cut from the PGA Championship, and cut from the Masters. In those 3 tournaments, he's playing 24 strokes over par in 3 tournaments, averaging 8 strokes over par in only 8 rounds. It's not great. It's not great. He's averaging 3 strokes over par per round of golf he's playing in majors. That's something that needs to change. His iron play needs to be better, and that's really the root of his problems right now, looking at Wyndham Clark. But that'll wrap it up for that conversation on Wyndham Clark. Hopefully he proves me wrong. Of course, I'm American. Of course, I'm rooting for him. Of course, I want to see him get a medal here at the USA Olympics. I just think that it's a little bit of a long shot for him. That'll wrap it up for our 4th segment of the night, talking about Wyndham Clark. Our 5th and final segment of the night has all of my titles got sent over for some reason. But we'll be talking about Neil Shipley, the Ohio State alumni now. So I have my Ohio State polo on. We'll be talking about him in this fifth and final segment of the night and how he became the only 10th player ever to be the low amateur at the U.S. Open and the Masters. Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we're getting into our fifth and final segment of the night, talking about Neil Shipley and how he won low amateur at the U.S. Open and the Masters. And I do have to correct myself. I've been saying 10th player. He's only the 9th golfer ever to be the low amateur at the Masters and the U.S. Open. Very, very impressive weekend he has had at both events. At the U.S. Open, he finished even to par on the first round. He finished 3 over on round 2 to make the cut, 1 over on round 3, and then 2 over on round 4. Very impressive 6 over. He was tied with Brooks Koepka at 6 over, man. Like that's impressive. Tied for 26th at the U.S. Open, and then at the Masters, it was 1 under from round 1. 4 over round 2, made the cut there, and 8 over round 3, a little unfortunate, but 1 over on the 4th round to become that low am at the Masters. Still very impressive for Neil Shipley at both events. At the Masters, he was tied 53rd after that bad round 3, but without that bad round 3, I mean, he has a very impressive PGA Tour card so far. Of course, he will be turning pro following this U.S. Open. He will play in his first professional field. I don't know if he's in the Travelers, but I know for sure he'll be playing in the John Deere Classic. I actually should definitely check up on that. I actually do really want to see if he is playing at the Travelers, because that would be a guy that I definitely want to look out for. Of course, I go to Ohio State. He's a fellow Buckeye. Of course, gotta support the alumni record or the alumni system. But Neil Shipley is just and he is not in the field for the Travelers Championship, which makes sense. It's a signature event. But he definitely will be there for the following week. But Neil Shipley, it was very impressive, just all around. Really, I'm very impressed with him that he's able to go out on a course like Pinehurst, the most difficult course that has been played on tour this year, and have a pretty good weekend. He has seen 2 of the 3 most difficult courses that the PGA Tour has to offer. And the 3rd most difficult course is the Memorial, and I'd be shocked if he's never played the Memorial course, if he's never played at Muirfield Village. Of course, him being an Ohio State alumni now, of course, playing his last year of college at Ohio State. Former James Madison University golfer as well. Got to give them credit. He did transfer to Ohio State from James Madison, so not just Ohio State. But he becomes now the 9th player to be the low amateur. And the reason that this is so impressive is that it's only happened 8 other times, most recently from Victor Hovland in 2019. Victor Hovland's a really, really good golfer. It's also happened... It happened in 2019 with Victor Hovland. It has also happened with Phil Mickelson in 1991, Matt Kuchar in 1998, Jack Nicklaus in 1960, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, just so impressive. You're putting your name on that list. Victor Hovland, Jack Nicklaus, Matt Kuchar, Phil Mickelson, And Neil Shipley, he has a very bright future on the backs of everything that he has done in majors. He definitely will be a mainstay on the tour, and he's doing this all with an Arby's club head. You gotta love it. He has that. I don't know if if you guys have seen the picture of his club head, but it's just Arby's curly fries. Has a lot of character. He said in interview, "It's really an honor to win the low amateur here, and especially at Pinehurst," Shipley said afterward. "It's a really special place, and just really excited about being in a ceremony later today. It's been wild. It's something that maybe 3-4 years ago I didn't think was possible, and to accomplish all this has just been phenomenal. Just the stuff of dreams as an amateur. To do everything I've done, I think I've checked all the boxes now," and that absolutely makes sense, and he absolutely has. For Neil Shipley, very, very impressive. Just his entire golf game has been very impressive. One of the longer drives of the entire weekend. Actually, I didn't mean to look this up before, but truly, it was so impressive what he was able to do with the driver this weekend. Off the tee, just looking at total driving off the tee. Let's see where he ended up. If my computer will load it, hopefully it can eventually. There we go. So, of course, Rory McIlroy, as I said, was first and second in distance and third in accuracy. For Neil Shipley, he finished 11th in total driving with 23rd in distance and 21st in accuracy. He's 23 years old. This is his second ever professional golf event. And he is 11th in the field in driving, just behind Tommy Fleetwood, who is one of the most accurate drivers on tour, second in the field in accuracy, ahead of Sergio Garcia, Seb Straka, Sam Burns, Patrick Cantley he's ahead of. He's also ahead of Bryson Dechambeau in total driving, which Bryson Dechambeau, of course, was first in distance, 66th in accuracy. That's the story of Bryson Dechambeau. But man, a guy that is turning pro now, who has really just the world ahead of him. This Neil Shipley guy is somebody that definitely to keep your eye out if you're looking for a young guy coming up. I think just as a whole, though, the golf scene is in really great hands. We looked back in like 2015, 2014, when guys like Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, these guys were coming up. Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, all these guys were coming up and flying through the ranks here. And we felt like there was a golden generation in golf, and there truly has been. I think we're on the verge of another one. I think that truly these guys that could be next up. I'm looking at like Ludwig Oberg, who I think is going to be a very special talent, and I think he has all the potential in the world. Victor Hovland, who has proven to be a fantastic winner on the PGA Tour. Now Neil Shipley, who has been joining Victor Hovland as the 9th player to be low am at a U.S. Open and Masters. I think golf is in great hands with the young guys on tour right now who are really going to break through kind of all at the same time. A little bit staggered, but Ludwig Oberg just had his 3rd ever major championship that he played in, his 1st ever U.S. Open, and he was one of the leaders after day 2. Truly, golf is in a really great place, and I'm very excited for the future that it does hold. Neil Shipley is a big part of that. Of course, there is a little bit of bias here. He is an Ohio guy. He's from Ohio State. I did get to see a few of his events when he did play for when he was playing golf for Ohio State, as I did write for the Lantern during that time, so I saw people that were writing articles about Neil Shipley and about the stuff that he was doing at Ohio State. So, stories that have hit close to home, and truly I do see the talent in this guy, and especially in that driver. He has been very impressive off the tee, especially in these majors. So for Neil Shipley, I think that he has a lot of potential going into his professional career. He's going right onto the PGA Tour, or I think he's going right onto the Korn Ferry Tour, actually. He doesn't have the PGA Tour card yet, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll figure it out. He will definitely eventually be at the PGA Tour, and he will definitely make some waves there. But for the GSMC Golf Podcast, that was our 5th and final segment of the night. So thank you all for showing your support in the show. Every bit of support helps us out a lot. Of course, use the gsmcpodcast.net if you want to help support the show even more. We'll be back on Thursday. Thank you for all your support. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe. If you did enjoy the show as well, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for more content and updates from the GSMC Golf Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in, and all of you guys have a fantastic and wonderful night.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit